the next 3 weeks, I took dictation from morning till night. The whole place was geared especially for his return to work. Jenny seemed to be everywhere, bringing in meals at all hours, slipping in and out of rooms silently so as not to disturb anyone. And then one afternoon, when I walked into his study, there was another man standing there beside Paul.
Oh, Amy. This is Al Pender, a local newspaper man. He tried his best to have me indicted for murder.
Oh? How do you do, Mr. Pender?
I'm a celebrity, Amy. Pender wants to interview me about my new book. Why don't you tell him all about it?
I wouldn't want the responsibility, Paul.
You can tell him how bad it is as well as I can.
No, Paul. I couldn't say that about it.
What could you say about it? Anything worthwhile? The dropped eyes, the withdrawal. Isabel used to react the same way when I became angry with her.
Do I remind you of her?
Yes, you remind me of Isabel. Of all the things in her that stopped me from writing. How do you like that, Pender? There's a story for you to print.
You want me to print it, Gentry?
I'd kill you if you did.
I'm sorry that I remind you of Isabel, Paul.
Are you, Amy? Are you really? No, I don't think you are. I don't think you are at all.
Well, has he been like this much?
I'd rather not say, Mr. Pender.
Al.
Oh.
I'm glad he left, Amy. I think you're a nice person.
Thank you.
Too nice to work for him. How'd you meet him? How'd you get this job?
I found out he was going back to work and needed a secretary.
Did you know that no one in town would work for him?
Yes, because of Isabel Gentry.
And still you came here?
Yes.
He killed her. Everyone knows it.
It was never proved.
No, because of a technicality. I watched him here with you. He looked at you the same way he used to look at Isabel, with that fury in his eyes.
I know that.
And there's a reason. At times, Amy, you look a great deal like her. That means you're in danger as long as you're around him. He's a madman. He might actually think of you as Isabel.
I want him to think of me as Isabel in every way possible, every day, every minute. There must be some way to prove he killed her.
Who are you?
I'm Isabel Gentry's sister.
And now, Autolite brings back to our Hollywood soundstage Miss Ginger Rogers in Elliot Lewis's production of Vamp Till Dead, a tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
For the next few days, Paul Gentry threw himself into his work with a vicious sort of concentration and purpose. But his efforts were all in vain. His writing seemed to go from bad to worse. The stories were twisted, perverse, distorted studies in human behavior. The women were inevitably deceitful. The men tortured and driven to insane rages.
Terrible. Terrible. Not a word, not a single word in the whole mess that's printable at all.
Perhaps you're trying too hard, working too hard, Paul.
How can you accomplish anything worthwhile if you only half try?
I'll ask Jenny to bring us some coffee.
I don't want any coffee. I don't want anything. Maybe I expect too much, want too much, need too much. What is it that's the matter with me? What is it? Tell me, tell me.
I can't tell you, Paul. I don't understand you.
You don't even try, Isabel. Why do you smile?
You've just called me Isabel.
I did. Well, I'm sorry. It won't happen again. It was an accident.
Yes, Paul, of course it was. It was an accident. For the first time since I had met him, Paul Gentry was confused. And it was the confusion I had been hoping for. I began to do everything the way I had remembered Isabel. I wore her favorite perfume. I held my head to one side and smiled the way she used to. I started dropping her expressions in my speech. I wasn't sure all the time whether I was torturing him or he was torturing himself. But unconsciously, he began to think of me as Isabel. Even Jenny noticed it. I didn't notice you come in, Jenny.
What are you doing? Here in the cottage.
Practicing?
It was the little melody she used to play. He's been calling you by her name, hasn't he?
No, it's probably because his mind is on his work, and an old habit is difficult to break. And you're not thinking about it.
You've fixed your hair the way she used to wear it.
Have I? I often put it up like this. Do you think my hair would really bother him, Jenny?
Oh, it's hard to tell. The poor man. She was such a part of his life. I guess he can't quite give her up even yet.
Oh, maybe it'd be better if he didn't even try. A memory is sometimes a wonderful thing.
Not hers. There was something about her that killed his inspiration to create and left him with a feeling only to destroy. And he's done a good job, starting with himself.
His writing is very bad. What do you think I could do to help him?
Leave. Because no one can help him but himself.
But if he's going to write, he needs me.
Do you want to go through life with a picture in your mind of man being eaten alive by the acids that are burning inside of him?
Jenny, why do you stay?
Oh, I'm like his desk or the chair he sits on, just a piece of furniture doing a job. He doesn't think about me one way or the other. Someday I'll be able to see him get back to writing the way he used to.
You mean without her?
Yes.
Do you think he killed her, Jenny?
That's something I don't dare think about, Amy.
I thought about it. In the days that followed, Paul's work went from bad to worse, and so did his temper. He was unmanageable most of the time. Then his headaches finally came upon him, and he couldn't work for hours at a time. He would sit in his chair, drinking and staring at me. Just staring, staring, staring. Sometimes I expected him to leap out of his chair and beat me to death. And other times I was afraid he was going to fall on his knees and throw his arms around me, begging forgiveness. I knew he was almost ready to break the day he went into a rage and started throwing things around his study. I left the house and walked down to the bridge. I was only alone for a minute.
Hello, Amy. I heard all kinds of noise in the house. What's going on?
Suppose I ask you what's going on. You seem to be keeping a pretty close watch on me. Why?
We call it humanity. Call it what you like. I don't want anything to happen to you.
Is that the only